Have you ever been home alone and suddenly heard strange creaking sounds? Like footsteps in the hallway when no one else is supposed to be there? Your heart starts racing, and you tell yourself it's just the old house settling or the wind. But deep down you wonder, is something watching you? Poltergeists, house spirits, brownies, we've all heard countless terrifying legends about unseen entities living in our homes, hiding behind furniture, moving objects, or whispering in the dark. But what if I told you there's a true story where this something wasn't a ghost at all, yet it was captured? And the truth is even more horrifying than any supernatural tale. Today, we're diving into the real story of the Denver Haunted House, a place locals called cursed for years, with moving curtains, black silhouettes in windows, and unexplained noises. But the shocking reality behind the poltergeist will make you want to check your attic tonight. Stick around, because this one gets under your skin. I'll take just a couple of seconds of your time. If you're enjoying stories like this, please hit subscribe, drop a like, and leave a comment with your thoughts. What would you do if you suspected someone was living in your house? Let's jump into the video. Back in 1910, in a quiet neighborhood in Denver, Colorado, at 3335 West Monmouth Place, lived the Peters family. Felipe Peters worked on the railroad until his retirement in 1930. He and his wife Helen led a modest, peaceful life. They were part of a music lovers club and often hosted small concerts at home, inviting musicians. Their young relative Edward would play the mandolin, a type of guitar. It was a warm, ordinary home filled with music and neighborly kindness. But years later, everything changed. In September 1941, Helen fell and broke her hip, a serious injury that required a long hospital stay. Felipe was left alone in the house. Neighbors checked on the elderly man, inviting him for meals because they knew how lonely it must have felt. On October 17, 1941, the Ross family across the street invited him to dinner. They prepared everything, but Felipe never showed up. Mrs. Ross went to check on him. The lights were off. She knocked. No answer. She met another neighbor, young Doris Berg, and together they tried the back door. Locked. More neighbors gathered, and they helped Doris climb through a second-floor window. She entered the dark, silent house, calling out for Felipe. No response. She moved through the empty rooms until she reached the bedroom. She opened the door and screamed. What she saw was horrific. Blood everywhere, on the floors, walls, furniture. Felipe Peters' body lay near the bed, brutally beaten with 37 blunt force injuries. Defensive wounds on his hands showed he fought hard. A broken cane was beside him. Bloody footprints led through the kitchen and rooms. The murder weapon? A cast iron poker from the kitchen. The big mystery. How did the killer get in? No signs of forced entry on windows or doors. Nothing was stolen. Cash and valuables were untouched. Police called it the ghost house murder. It seemed like the killer was already inside, or something supernatural. The investigation stalled. No fingerprints, no suspects that fit. Felipe's wife Helen eventually returned home after her hospital stay, but she couldn't stay long due to her injury. While she was away again, neighbors reported strange sounds from the empty house, footsteps, lights, dark silhouettes in the windows. Kids scared each other with stories of Felipe's ghost haunting the place. Housekeepers Edith Clark and Hattie Johnson helped care for Helen when she came back. They both felt watched. Objects moved. Newspapers disappeared from the porch. Food trays were misplaced. One day, the emergency bell in Helen's bedroom rang at a neighbor's house. The neighbor rushed over, but Helen was calmly downstairs. No one was upstairs. Who pressed the button? Helen's hearing was poor, so she noticed nothing unusual. Edith Clark saw something terrifying. She heard tapping, thought it was birds, then saw a door to the stairs slowly open. A thin white hand and leg appeared. She screamed, and it vanished upstairs. Police searched but found nothing. Hattie Johnson saw a silhouette of a ragged, dried-up man in the kitchen. It disappeared instantly. Both housekeepers quit in fear. The house gained a reputation as Denver's haunted house. Blinds moved by themselves. Silhouettes appeared in windows. Police responded many times, always empty rooms. Then, on July 30th, 1942, detectives spotted a black silhouette in a window. They rushed in, heard noise from above, and found legs dangling from a tiny hidden space in the pantry ceiling. A narrow gap no one thought a person could fit through. They pulled down a disgusting-looking man, tall, thin as a reed, covered in dirt, wearing rags soaked in filth. The stench was unbearable. He had lived in a tiny attic space, about 70 by 140 centimeters, impossible to even lie straight. It was full of dirty rags, newspapers, a bed made from ironing boards, cobwebs, and worse. He even used it as a toilet. He carried a broken .44 revolver. Police nicknamed him the Spider. Only a spider could live like that. This was no ghost. It was Theodore Connis, a real person who had secretly lived in the Peters house for years. He was a Frogger, someone who invades and hides in occupied homes. He knew the house well from decades earlier. When the Peters were out or asleep, he crept out, ate their food carefully so they wouldn't notice, listened to music on an old player, even shaved with Felipe's razor. He watched Felipe from hiding for thrills, hiding behind doors, feeling like the house was his. When Helen was in the hospital, Theodore came down for food and ran into Felipe. Panicking that his home would be taken, he grabbed a revolver from the wall and attacked. Felipe fought back with his cane. Theodore used the poker. He hit him repeatedly until Felipe stopped moving. Then he cleaned the poker, took food, and hid again. He stayed through the entire police investigation, listening to radio reports about the ghost while hiding. He even watched Helen sleep from the shadows after she returned. He lived there for 10 months total, with the widow of the man he killed, leaving only once for snow to melt for water. Theodore confessed everything. He said if Felipe hadn't noticed him, he'd still be alive. It was him or me. At trial, he pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder, claiming it was accidental due to his mental state. Found guilty of second-degree murder on Halloween 1942, sentenced to life. He told the court, "I feel safe now. I'll have a better house than I've had in years." Theodore died in prison in 1967 at age 83. This poltergeist was a living nightmare, a man secretly sharing your space, watching you, stealing your peace. The thought that someone could be living in your attic right now, listening to you sleep, it's terrifying. And this isn't as rare as you think. In 2008 in Japan, a man noticed strange sounds and missing food. He installed cameras and caught a 58-year-old woman living in his house for a year. She had moved between houses on the street. In South Carolina, a woman found her ex-boyfriend from 12 years ago living in her attic, watching through vents, with containers of waste. He had duplicate keys. In Seattle, a woman lived in a locked room for days, thinking the owner was Jimmy. Frogger stories keep coming. People hide in attics, basements, walls, living parallel lives in your home. Have you checked your crawl spaces lately? Inspected the attic? What if that creaking at night isn't the house settling? This Denver case shows how the supernatural can have a very human, very disturbing explanation. It makes you appreciate the safety of your own home. Or question it. What do you think? Would you notice someone living secretly in your house? Have you ever had unexplained noises or missing items? Share in the comments below. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button, subscribe for more real creepy tales, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Until our next meeting on the channel, stay safe, check your corners, and sleep well. If you can. See you soon!